Hi, my creative artists. Quarter 4 is all about making 3D works of art or sculpture. And there's two materials that your mom or dad may have collected for you from school to help us to make different 3D works of art. The first project that we'll be doing for quarter 4 will be using the plasticine clay. And I want to introduce to you how this clay is a little bit different than our typical air dry paper clay. This clay is actually made out of oil, which makes it so that it never dries out. It is always able to be used to create no matter how much time goes on. So you don't necessarily have to keep it in your plastic bag. But because it's made out of oil, that means that before we start creating, we first need to warm it up in our hands to make the clay soft and able to mold. So boys and girls, when you are using your plasticine clay, don't get frustrated if it's kind of hard at first. The longer it sits in your hands, the softer and easier it gets to work with. This clay is, again, going to be what we will use first to learn about how to use clay to make different shapes that we can combine. During this video, I'm also going to explain to you how we can prepare our air dry clay for creation. If you do not have plasticine clay, then you need to begin the first project using our air dry clay. With this clay, we are going to make 4 different projects, which means our first task is to actually open it and split it into 4 sections. So, first, open up your package, which I know you all have been very excited to do. Then, take a kitchen knife or ruler or something straight to cut the block in half and break it into sections. You're going to do the same thing again with these 2 blocks, breaking the whole allotment of clay into 4 equal sections. This will help us to make sure that by the 4th project, we still have enough clay to use. Once you've broken your clay into 4 sections, go ahead and put aside one of the blocks that you'll use today, and the other bits of clay put into a plastic bag to ensure that they don't dry out. Whenever the clay is placed into a closed ziploc bag, and sometimes I even add a little bit more water into the bag, sucking the air out, this will make sure that in the following weeks you'll always have moist clay to use. But with the clay that I'm currently going to use today, I actually need to do another step to prepare it. Taking a piece of cloth from home, a dish towel works very well. You're going to take the block of clay as well as a cup of water, and we are going to do something called hydrating our clay. What we want to do is we need to get water into the inside of this clay to make it so that it's not so crumbly. Right now, the clay, whenever I break it apart, it just kind of crumbles at me. It's a little bit too dry to work with. So what I'm going to do is take my fingers and dip it into my water. I'm not going to dunk my whole ball of clay into the water because then it will get too wet too quick. I can also break my clay into some more manageable sizes. And I'm going to take my wet fingers and I'm going to squish them into my clay, making my finger holes as deep as I can into that ball of clay. This will help the water get all the way deep into the inside of our clay. I'm going to dip some more water as I need it, and again, keep squishing the clay back and forth. Now, boys and girls, you may be tempted to just rub the water on the outside, but that's not going to help it get all the way deep into the clay. So use your strong hands and fingers to squash and squash the water until it gets well mixed into the clay. Okay, boys and girls, I know that my clay is properly hydrated because when I break it apart, it actually first stretches a little bit before it crumbles. We don't want it to be too wet where it just sloshes in my fingers, but it has a nice elastic texture to it. We need to, before we create anything with clay, always do this step of first hydrating our clay to make sure it's nice and soft and sticky. Dry, crumbly clay does not stick very nicely together. So when I merge two pieces together with it being dry, it will fall off. But if my clay is nice and wet and sticky like it is now, those pieces are ensured to stay on even better.